What's up, guys? My name is Andre, and in this video we're going to be covering the green and red days by weekday report on edgeful.com. So very simply put, this report measures how often a certain weekday has closed red or green. So you can see there's each of the weekdays are here, and then you can see how often this closed red versus green in the last 6 months. So we're looking at YM here. We're looking in the New York session, which is very important, which I'm going to touch on in a second. And then most importantly, we are using the open to close customization. I'm going to show you the difference between the open to close and the close to close, but let me show you here. So when you're looking at this New York session, using the open to close customization here, what you'll notice on this market sessions indicator, which outlines the New York session for you, which you can get access to right over here off to the right. You can put your TradingView username right over here, which you can find right here. And then you'll get in your invite only all of your 35 custom indicators. Now, if you're using the open to close of this session, you should be looking here at the New York session, and you can see there is this diagonal line that's facing downwards. This goes from the open to the close. So pretty much, if this line is facing downwards, that's a red day when you're looking at this customization. So here's a red day. Here's a green day right over here because the close of the session is higher than the open. Now we are looking at the New York session here, which means that we are looking only at the data within these blue boxes. We are completely ignoring this data here. We don't care about the daily open. We don't care about any of this data here. It is completely ignored. We are looking from this open to this close here, and that's how these are calculated. Now, if I were to change this to be the London session, you're going to see that the data has changed. That is because we are measuring a different time frame. So I'm turning on my London, turning off my New York, and I'm putting on, I want to make sure that my time frame matches the session I'm looking at, so from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. Now you can see this is measuring a different time. So let me show you side by side what this looks like. So you can see this is green here because this line is diagonal. You can see that this London session is green and this New York session is red. So it's measuring two completely different things. So you need to make sure you understand what sessions you're looking at. Now, let's look at this customization. So let's go back to the New York session. Let's go to the previous close to close. By the way, this is typically the way that that equity traders measure green or red, but it's totally up to you. It actually doesn't matter what you decide to do. But I'm going to try to find a good example here of previous close to close. Now, typically, you're going to see, okay, here's a great example right here. So instead of looking at this line here, this line becomes irrelevant now. When you're looking at the previous close to close, what you're doing is you're measuring from the previous session's close, which is this red line, to the close of this session here. Now, this is the way, which is this green line right over here. So in this case, if you're using the open to close customization, this day will be green. If you're using the previous close to close, this day will be red because it closed below the previous New York close. Now, if you're looking at the London session, you are looking at the previous London close. Again, this example is perfect. The previous London close is over here. This London close is over here, even though the open to the close here was green because it was obviously it closed higher than it opened. When you're using this customization, this day would count as red. If you prefer one to the other, it doesn't really matter. What's important is that you know what you're looking at. So equity traders, options traders will consider a day green or red based on the previous closing price. If price is above, that's green. If price is below, that's red. It accounts for the gaps. It's not really important, but the point is that you should know what customization you're looking at and how that impacts the results. So obviously here is the chart. Now, how can you use this in your trading? So let's say here that there's a certain weekday. So if I go to the open to close customization, you can see that actually 70% of Thursdays have closed red. So what that means for me is I can use this as confluence to be bearish on that day. So look at this day here. This is Thursday. You can see obviously a very bearish day. Obviously, this was a huge move down. And typically in the last 6 months, Thursdays have been closing red. So this is something where you can go in and say, you know what? I can add this as confluence to a short bias trade. And when you see something like this, where it's closer to 50-50, the way that you use this is not a throwaway stat. The way that you use this is to say, if you saw on Twitter or on YouTube or something that Fridays are always green. So you go into a Friday typically very bullish. That's actually going to hurt you because in reality, the data shows that Fridays are more of a coin toss. So you actually can't use this as confluence to your trade, which means that you are staying out of a bad trade when the stats are 50-50. And now this is something that's really important for not just this report, but all reports. When you see something that's 50-50 and you have some sort of bias for that stat being in a certain direction, it should wipe your bias and keep you out of a bad trade. So that's what I recommend, and that's how I would recommend using this report. In this case, Thursdays are obviously the standout day here. And obviously the table is here. We have the streaks, the table here, the video you're watching here. We have the explainer graphs, and then over here we have the explainer text. So I hope this is helpful. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.